do is we're going to transition right into our panelists. So I think I have some rock stars in the room. The first rock star is Greg. Is Greg here? Greg, come on up. Greg, get up for Greg, guys. Come on. Come on, come on. Is Abigail here? Abigail? Hello. Is Abigail here? All right, get up for Abigail. Come on, come on, come on. Is Ryan here? It must be an awesome dude. Both have the same name. Come on, get up for my man Ryan. There he is in the back. I should have known better. Handsome guy. Awesome. And is Yitzy here? My man, come on up, buddy. Awesome. Come on, make some noise, make some noise, make some noise. Well, thank you, guys. So I think are we missing anybody? Okay, yeah, there it is. Cool. Awesome. And so one of the benefits to speaking on stages and helping people facilitate, and let's give it up for EVIVE for putting on this event, guys. You know, what I have found, guys, along the journey is the gift of living is giving. And these gentlemen and young lady have made a decision in their life to go first, to be a leader. And when you're a leader and you speak in public, sometimes you take arrows. Sometimes it's not so easy. So whenever I see somebody with the level of willingness to share their message, to make a difference in the world, it truly warms my heart. So if you guys would please make a lot of noise for our panelists, please. Awesome. Thank you, guys. So I have some questions here. So we have about 30, 45 minutes, so we can maybe I'll ask a question, then everybody just kind of answers the question and go down. Sounds good? You got it? Cool. You're up, my man. So what operational changes have the highest correlation to improving patient outcomes and financial performance simultaneously? Is that a good question?
It's a terrible question. I think if anyone on this panel can answer that question, I will pay you $1 million to come work for me. I saw that question last night. I think Abigail and I were talking outside. Abigail saw it when at 12 a.m. last night. That's an existential question. I think that is the promised land that we're all trying to figure out, right? And sometimes those two things don't work together.
That's good.
It's very rare that you have the opportunity to make a single decision that will positively impact both your bottom line and your patient care at the same time. That's the promised land. That's, I think, what we're all trying to figure out. But if there's a single thing, I mean, there's so many things that are absolutely crucial to this business. To highlight a single one, you know, I would just say this. It's hard to answer that question specifically. If you give me maybe 10 days, I'll write you a paper on it. But just as a general, you know, an overarching kind of theme that I try to propagate in my own company, which I think kind of takes us to the promised land, so to speak, which will get us to that point of improving patient care and also hitting our bottom line. As some of the things that you mentioned, you have to have, I call it, some of us will understand this word and I'll translate it, you have to have neshama. You got to have soul. If you have soul in what you're doing and you believe in the mission of what you're doing and why you're doing it, then you'll make the right decisions. And to me, the universe is running in the direction of disconnection. We are disappearing into our phones, into our screens, and I was, I think, a ChatGPT power user this year. They told me in my year-end summary I was in the top 3%, right? That is the opposite of connecting with other people. Last night I sat with my mother at dinner, and I took a picture of the menu and told ChatGPT my stomach was hurting. What should I have for dinner? Right? That's something that usually you'd converse with the person across the table about, right? What are you getting? What should I have? And so in a universe where we're running away from connection, to me, what I'd like my company to be about is connection. And so if we frame the decisions that we make around enhancing, connecting human beings with one another, then I think that will ultimately get us to the bottom line, to the promised land. We'll feel it on the bottom line, and we'll feel it in our patient care.
Love that. Give me a hand, guys. Good job. Awesome. Would you like to answer the same question?
Sure, yeah, I'll
Okay,
speak
yeah,
on that.
sure.
And, pleasure seeing everybody here. Not a lot of familiar faces, a lot of friends, partners, clients, associates from other events. It's always great seeing people. And to the ChatGPT comment for dinner, I am unfortunately definitely going to do that because working in finance, my stomach is not the best, and often I had that silent contemplation at dinner myself of what to do. So I will secretly use that.
It was very helpful.
I can imagine. I can imagine it would be. I'm definitely going to use that one. Thank you. As far as patient outcomes, I've seen it through all three different lenses. So my background is in private equity, in operations, and also investment banking on the M&A transaction side. All three of those look at and perceive patient outcomes and the financial possibly performance or detriment to that in different lenses. From the get-go, none of that can happen without the data being tracked efficiently. So let's start right there. If you are not having a system to track the data of your patient outcomes, then you have no point to move forward from. On the transactional side, we see clients on the sell side countless times say, hey, I have such a good program, the clients love it, we have great feedback, read our Google reviews, they're so great. Any investor will pay a top tier multiple because our Google reviews are so great that patients love us. That doesn't matter. It's not real data. Real data is tracking KPIs through patient outcomes on a consistent basis, improving them, analyzing what the issues are of either why or why not systems are working, and continuing to move on from there. Once you have that base of patient outcomes tracking secured, now you can get creative. How do we use this data to now enhance the operational ability of the company and the financial viability? Well, with data, you have a couple different ways, and we'll talk about this later on when we get to the value-based care segment, but that data when it comes to payer negotiations, and Greg, I'm sure, could give a lot more insight on this as well from the billing perspective, that data is so valuable when either going to approach a payer for a commercial in-network contract, or if any of you are brave enough and risking the value-based care model world, that's going to be your bread and butter right there. But as it's starting to get competitive in the in-network commercial contracting processes, you're going up against other organizations that track data, have been tracking data, possibly a lot longer, and have improved that data a lot better. And so it's not the days anymore of going to the insurance company and saying, hey, I have this data, I've been tracking it, it's good, give me a ton of money, a lot more than my neighbor down the street. It doesn't work like that anymore. You have to show over a period of time what you've done, how it's improved, and most importantly, how that is going to save the insurers money. If the long-term attrition is less than what they'll pay as a normalized rate, they'll be a little bit more happy to talk to you about the contractual obligations. On the clinical side, once you have that data, now it's really working with your staff to put that in motion. That data could be helpful on the clinician side or the medical side when it comes to utilization review and getting extended offs. And so if you're able to take that patient data, go to the insurance company and say, hey, we need another week. It's not just, have them fill a bed and just kind of fluff the space. We need it because we show that if we stay 35 days on average, we have better outcomes than programs that have 25-day stays. So all this information is super valuable and important to the insurers and getting authorizations as well. And then circling back kind of completely around to the beginning, on the investment side for transactions, once you have that data and a buyer, whether it's an individual investor, family office, national platform, or private equity group, they're always going to be asking, okay, let's see this data, let's review it. And they're not going to take any stories or kind of Google reviews or non-qualifiable data as an acceptable answer. And so they're going to want to see your conversations with the insurance companies, with the KPIs. They're going to see how that progressed. If they're smart buyers, they've also looked at other businesses for sale in your geographical area, and they know right around what the rates should be, good and bad. And so if you're not better than those rates with your improved data, that's somewhat of a yellow flag, not a red flag. But things like that are going to really position yourself for the sale. So long story short, if you're able to button up the data systems from the get-go and then move on to actually analyzing and improving the processes with that data platform, then you're going to be in a really good position to move on from there.
Well, thank you, guys. Give me a hand, guys. Come on, make some noise. Hey, you guys do me a favor. Say, I love numbers and numbers love me. All right. Abigail.
So I was going to talk about reports and data, but I think I'll leave that for now. One of the organizational changes and operational changes that I found that really has helped, with better patient outcomes and financial stability is just collaboration across the different channels of our business and across our employees. So for example, we instituted Teams channels, chats, et cetera, where we're really bringing together our compliance, our RCM, our admissions, clinical, leadership, and having everyone on one platform together, whether it be, regarding a new intake, whether it be a client that's going through treatment, whether it be through discharge, and obviously we have different chats that are geared towards, different aspects of client care, has really helped with patient outcomes at the end of the day, really retaining patients in the program and helping with our financial outcomes at the end of the day.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Give her a hand, guys. Come on, come on.
I'm a big believer in the principle that good treatment is good business, partly because of what Ryan was talking about, that good treatment leads to better outcomes for patients, which leads to better outcomes for payers, which ultimately is going to allow you to grow in an exponential way as opposed to a linear way. But I think my answer to this question is really a strategic one, which is I really appreciate your talk about patterns, Ryan. Like, one of the patterns that I've observed in my own life and in the lives of a lot of the leaders that I've worked with is it's really hard to say no to things. And so my one word in answer to this question would be focus. Find the thing that you and your team and your program are best in the world at. If that's treating veterans, if that's treating pregnant women, if that's treating people in rural areas, find the thing that you're best in the world at and double down on that and grow in a very intentional, thoughtful way around that core focus, because that's what's going to allow you to outperform all of your peers and competitors, and that's going to allow you to improve the quality of your patient outcomes, which ultimately is going to lead to better growth and better business.
Well, I love that. Give me a hand, guys. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. Just trying to find a good one here for you guys. Okay, what do most treatment centers unknowingly experience silent attrition in patient journeys, and how can that be operationally corrected? Who'd like to go?
Let somebody else start with that so I can figure out what the question is. Yeah, let's start from Greg's side. Yeah.
Sure.
So I think the thing that I would talk about there is the silent attrition that a lot of people are experiencing is at the very, very front end of the process, which is to say even before a patient admits to treatment. Historically, this industry has been very focused on cash pay, out-of-network, sort of the higher gross revenue generating patients. And there's been a lot less focus historically on in-network commercial and the Medicaid population. And I think that the silent attrition that people are seeing is this missed opportunity of these huge, huge, huge groups of people who desperately need the services that our clients at Prosperity and that all of you in the room provide. But we're not really orienting our programs in the direction to provide that service to them, which means that they're missing our funnels altogether. And I think that, Ryan talked a little bit before about the in-network contracting process. Like, there's definitely been a move across the industry in that direction, and I think that's really valuable from a business perspective, but also from a patient perspective, because that's a huge group of folks who need access to care. You talked about over 300,000 people died last year from overdose. There's a ton of people who have HMOs, who have Medicaid, who desperately need care, and there are business models that are available to serve those populations sustainably and profitably and provide growth for treatment organizations. But those are populations that historically, at least, have been overlooked to a significant extent, and I think that's a big missed opportunity for a lot of organizations that we work with.
Thank you so much.
So as an operator across various different levels of care and treating clients from different payer sources, I've definitely experienced silent attrition, I would say, across the board. But an area that I really want to highlight is really once you get a client into your facility, you've actually, per se, done their initial assessment, let's hope, and getting them to actually stay that first week of treatment. I find that to be a really high-risk time where clients are really vulnerable, especially if you're getting clients at, let's say, a PHP level where they're coming from detox. So one of the ways that we've really found that has helped with silent attrition is really making sure that we have a handle on our client, that we really meet the client where they are. So for example, let's say we have a PHP client and they're going to housing. We'll accompany them to the housing. We'll actually help them unpack. We'll have our employees come, meet the clients over the weekend to make sure that there's not any downtime. So just really, also just if a client has a specific need, can we fill that need? How can we fill that need? Recently we had a client that said she's only staying in treatment if she can come with her dog. So we found her housing that accommodated a pet. So it's just really meeting the client's needs and really making them feel like, we are your family and we're here to help you and we're going to help you through your vulnerability.
Thank you so much. Love that.
Yeah, there's a couple different ways to go about that. Definitely from the client care perspective side of things, obviously if you're paying attention to the client, especially in that first week when they're coming in the doors, that's the most likely time they're going to AMA and walk right out. Depending on your payer model, if the client is actually bought into the program, if they paid a small or significant patient responsibility like deductible or out of pocket, those clients on average are not going to walk out the door the first week because they just gave you $15,000. They don't want to lose that money. We often see it happen more so with clients that either have no responsibility, have it waived, on the Medicaid population where there's no responsibility at all as far as patient responsibility. Those ones are more apt to come and go as they please, especially if they're frequent flyers, if they've been to treatment 10 plus times, they know the deal. There's a very hard time for your first week to convince that client that this is going to be different the 11th time. But it's very, very important for both you and the clinical staff, and the medical staff too, if they're doing detox, to make sure that client is comfortable, happy, and secure in that first week of treatment. Now, outside of that, there has been some creative ways through my career that we have inadvertently reduced AMA rates just by design, real estate, location. I could give some funny examples, I guess. So 10 years back, we bought a facility in New Jersey before we were going public for the American Addiction Centers, and I was looking at the property, and I was talking to the staff, and it was up in Newton, New Jersey, and you drive all the way up, and you get to a single road. And from there, the private driveway is about a mile up, and it's just one little driveway going all the way up through all these trees, and then you reach the gate at the top of the mountain, and there is this old monastery, which is the property. I don't want to say beautiful, but historic property, we'll call it. Historic property, that sounds better. And so I say, hey, you're really in the middle of nowhere. If somebody leaves here, where do they go? And he goes, we don't really have people leave. I go, they don't want to leave? They don't have AMA problems? They don't, oh, no, they can't. We don't stop them, but they can't leave. I mean, I said, explain this to me. They go, okay, well, it's a mile down our driveway. Our entire property for that mile is infested with bears. There is 0 lights except for on our property. And then when you get to the bottom of our driveway, the nearest bus stop is 3 miles away. In that 3-mile journey, there's not a single street light. Well, that's not the program design, but inadvertently, that just happened to reduce their AMA rates significantly. So sometimes you can get creative with that. Another program out in Florida. Everybody was in South Florida was kind of focusing on the coastal areas, your Broward, Miami-Dade, your Palm Beach, but east of the Turnpike for the most part. And this one program opens up pretty much in the middle of nowhere in the Everglades. And I said, nobody is ever going to go to this program. It's so far out. There's no public transportation. Nobody knows you're here. And then I stopped and I realized the inverse of that is also true. Once you get there, there is no public transportation. You're in the middle of the Everglades infested by alligators. This was pre-Uber and pre-Lyft times, and so you're there. And so if you got the clients there, there was no way for them to really leave. And so, there are creative ways, just like I was mentioning. This is not built on purpose to lock anybody in, but if you make it, if you give them a comfortable treatment environment and you make it as easy as possible for them to enjoy their stay, and as hard as possible for them to essentially run away, then you're going to have a lot easier time dealing with those clients. And so I just want to put that idea in your head that it doesn't have to be solely clinically focused of how to block an AMA. There are other routes you could take inadvertently that can help reduce that attrition rate.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, so I think I figured out the question now that I heard everybody say. I did a little ChatGPT on the side there. I don't know if you guys saw. To me, what I'm understanding is the question's about how to block ATAs. We're calling it silent attrition. I never graduated from high school, so I'll Google that later. To me, this question lives in clinical. You could put a facility in Siberia, and nobody will leave. You could buy ice cream machines and put out snacks and try a lot of things that are going to cost a lot of money. Or you could work with your clinical team to block ATAs or AMAs. And you'll get some pushback from your clinical team. It's not my job. You know, I'm here to do whatever it is that my job is. But you'll have to work with your team, and you'll have to, you know, over time, explain to them what you need them to do. And there should never be an AMA or an ATA that has not had several touches by several members of your clinical team. Listen, I have 200 beds, 200 exclusively Medicaid beds in Virginia. My client population is gonna leave sometimes, and there's nothing I can do about it. And if I would make myself absolutely crazy about trying to keep them in a place that they don't wanna be, then I would spend a lot of money trying to help people that don't wanna be helped. The reality is that the people that can be helped, we should be able to reach them and get to them. And if we're not able to do that, and our ATA rate is skewing on the wrong side of that, we have a clinical problem more than we have when our facility is not nice enough. We need an ice cream machine, or we should have put our facility in the middle of Siberia.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Did I answer that okay?
I think you did
Everybody?
great. That was incredible. All right. How should behavioral health organizations rethink utilization management to reduce denials and improve length of stay stability without compromising ethics? Whoever would like to go can go first.
You repeat the question one more time.
Sure. How should behavioral health organizations rethink utilization management to reduce denials and improve length of stay stability without compromising ethics? Sure.
So I have a couple of thoughts in connection with this. So one of them is sort of more strategic, which is a compliance-related question, right? Like the best way to have strong payer relationships, and that includes utilization management, is to provide good care and to document that care appropriately. And so one of the things that I know there's going to be some folks on some of the later panels who are true experts in this, but one of the things that we do at Prosperity is that we've always viewed it as part of our job to help our facility partners improve in this respect. And so we do regular chart audits, we give feedback on charting, and increasingly we're using technology to support that. So we have a technology tool now that's part of our utilization review process that is deployed into our client facilities that audits charts and identifies deficiencies, and that helps our UR team have the information at their fingertips that they need in order to really argue the best case for that level of care and that extension of stay. But it also means that claim's not going to get denied on the back end because the chart didn't meet the criteria that are required in order to get paid. So that sort of is the compliance charting component is, in the sense, like it's the bedrock of all of this. But I think there's another more practical, or like a little bit more sort of like getting into the game of utilization management that I think is worth talking about, which is a principle that we have had for a long time. Is ultimately we're developing relationships with payers, and all of our facility partners are developing relationships and reputations with payers. And very often, it's the same case managers that we're seeing over and over again at these payers for one patient after another, and certainly one review after another. And these are human beings, and they detect patterns, they recognize people, and credibility matters. And so one of the things that we always work with our facility partners on is realism, right? Like we have a lot of people who come to us and say, we want every day that you can possibly get for every patient. We want to take everything to peer review. We want max. And our feedback to that is always, listen, you're going to get way farther on the whole over time. If you're strategic and you're thinking about the business for the long term, you're going to do much better laying a foundation of realism and credibility. And that allows you, when you really need it, when it really is clinically justified, when your team has passion behind, we need these extra days, then you can lean on the case manager and say, hey, listen, I don't BS you, I'm real with you. Like, when someone's ready to step down, I'm ready to step them down with you. But like, this guy, I'm telling you, our team is, really committed to this. That's when, again, these are human beings on the other end of these calls, and you are able to have those relationships and get those extra days when it really is clinically necessary, if you're willing to be realistic on the other side. When someone's ready to step down, step them down. So that sort of is getting into the game of it a little bit more, and how the relationship and interplay between the payer and the provider is working on a daily basis.
Thank you for that. Abigail, I'd like to ask you a different question. How can leaders tell if an organization is truly ready to grow before expanding locations, programs, or services?
Okay, so I actually like to approach that really from the opposite end. And I know that, there's always talk about leveraging, and, there's definitely things that we leverage in our business. But really, I think that the name of the game is having a facility that's stable before you go to that next level of opening up another facility. I've looked at portfolios of like 4 or 5 facilities, and every single facility is not profitable. And I'm like, why? Why did you go to that point? Why did you get to that point? So for me, it's really about being stable and then taking it to the next level. I think also going that route gives you the opportunity to really see what works, what doesn't work, and to really learn from that when you're actually going to scale and grow.
Thank you for that. And Ryan, how should real-time dashboards support daily leadership decisions, and which metrics matters most?
Yeah, I know there's a lot of different opinions on the daily KPIs and dashboards. I've seen it from all levels. I've seen it from small, single, or 1, 2, 3 location centers, and I've seen it with our publicly traded companies. The usage of the KPI dashboards daily, it's hard for me. I don't think that, especially owners or C-suite, need to be in that dashboard every single day. It'll cause unnecessary anxiety. You shouldn't be worrying about the average daily census every single morning you check in. Oh, we're down 2 admissions today. Oh, we're up 2. Okay. Your strategy and your focus and your mission as the C-suite operator or the owner or the investor is for long-term strategic planning. Let the team handle it that you have in place. Let them monitor the daily KPIs. You had 2 discharges today. You're going to have 5 admits later this week. I don't want to say who cares, but it's all in the wash. That isn't important to your daily life. It's going to stress you out and have you lose focus on the long-term goal. Now for your clinical staff or your operational team, really in the trenches, those can be helpful as well, but sometimes with the space, things happen. You'll have weeks of good admissions, you'll have weeks with big discharges, you'll have weeks with high deductible admissions, you'll have weeks with UR denials, it ebbs and flows. Same with your cash flow and your AR days in this space. You all know how this goes. And so the daily KPIs and dashboards can be really great to give you a feel of where the temperature is at that day. It's like when I open up my phone and I check the weather. Okay, it's gonna be nice out today, it's not gonna be nice out today. That doesn't change the fact that we're still in the same season. So use the KPIs as you can, track what's important for you, but don't let it drag you down and lose so much focus every day. We're not focusing overall on the grand mission.
Awesome.
Can I add something to that really quickly,
Yeah,
Ryan?
sure.
So I just want to sort of harken back to a couple of things that you said in your keynote, which are, KPIs are incredibly valuable tools to manage a business and to help a business grow, but ultimately they are only as valuable as the action you take based on what those KPIs are telling you. And so I just want to emphasize, we see a lot of organizations that are focused on dashboarding and KPIs and monitoring and tracking, but ultimately at the end of the day, if it stays at the executive level, if that doesn't penetrate down through the organization and drive action and behavior change, ultimately they don't provide much value. And I think the one other thing that I will say is, like, you can track so much in this day and age, the age of AI, the age of EMRs, the age of all, the technology that we have. You can track everything, but if you try to track everything, you're tracking nothing. And so I think another thing that I would say, and I recommend to our facility partners, really is identify a small number of metrics that really drive your business outcomes, and just relentlessly focus on that small set of key drivers. Because if you try to do too much with KPIs, it'll end up just all sort of getting washed away.
So true. Thank you so much.
Can I comment on?
Yeah, sure.
I have something on both of those questions. I'm getting better at this. Bear with me. I think from a KPI perspective, I'm the guy that you're mentioning. I wake up every morning to a report in my inbox. I see what our census is, what our census was yesterday. I see how much money we projected to make yesterday, how much money we actually made yesterday. And I see that across every level of care in each of our facilities. The thing, and I agree 1,000%, you will live and die by your KPIs. If you do that, you'll be incredibly stressed out and you won't be able to focus on the things that matter. That being said, what we've done, I think, a little different with how we look at our data on a daily basis is, in addition to just looking at the single day data, would we do yesterday, would we do the previous day, and it's a 30-day chart that we could look at one time, so you see the full picture, but we also have averages on the bottom, right? And that's really what our KPIs are, is your average daily census and what you're expected to make over the course of a month and things like that. And that's how we take the temperature of how we're doing. You can't live and die by yesterday's numbers. You'll go absolutely out of your mind. But you should be able to look at it, general KPIs, and see how are we doing? How are we doing over the past 30 days? How are we doing over the past 60 days? Are we on track? And at any time, you should be able to have insight and access to that. And if you don't, get it. It's important and it'll help a lot. As far as when you're ready to scale, I think that's such a crucial and important question. And if you're in this industry, you've probably come across some really well put together decks from coming out of fancy brokerage shops that are really telling the story of really impressive platforms that are worth a ton of money at a 14 multiple of pretend EBITDA that screwed up big time. And if you understand the business, you understand that, that's full of crap and there's absolutely nothing left. And if you read between the lines, you could understand where they went wrong. And more often than not, they went wrong because they grew too fast. We shouldn't, in real estate, there's a terminology, grave dancers, and it's kind of when you get the opportunity to dance on other people's mistakes. We shouldn't live in that schadenfreude, but I think one that's obvious without me pointing fingers is Landmark. And I think we should look at Landmark as a case study of what not to do. So that's what not to do. When do you grow? To me, you grow when two things happen. First of all, stabilization, right? If you haven't figured it out yet, don't keep doing it. Figure it out. That's first of all. Second of all, I think, and crucially, this is incredibly important, is when you have the right team in place. Maybe you've figured it out how to do one or two, but at some point and this is to your point that you mentioned earlier, you are not going to be able to do it all. If you have a team that in your gut feels aligned with your mission, but not only aligned with your mission, they're also smart and can see past. Let's say you have the vision to be able to see from 1 to 20, but they could see from 20 to 30. That's what you need. You need people in the room that could see past just your vision, be able to implement your vision, and also, crucially important, will challenge you and challenge your assumptions. I think when you have that, you're ready to grow.
Well said. Well, thank all of you for being here and sharing your wisdom and sharing your time. I know I got a lot of value out of it. Clearly, you guys know what you're doing. I feel like I'm sitting here like, man, I need them on my team. You guys want to join up? We can join together. Well, anyways, please give them a round of applause, guys. They did an incredible job. Yeah, that concludes the panel, guys. Thank you so much. God bless. Have a great day, guys. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate you, brother. Yeah, likewise, buddy.